What is my next challenge in daring to be human?
How do I connect with life?
How can I let go of my need for fixed answers in favor of aliveness?
How do I live free from the experiences that shaped me?
How can we be the change the world needs right now?
Join us weekly for stony conversations about life.
It is our mission to allow life itself to reveal to us the answers. Welcome to Chasing Thoughts.
Hey everybody, I am not used to doing the intros because Mindy always does them. So yeah, go back to an older episode and watch Mindy's intro. But I'm doing it today because I got my buddy coming on here, Jaret. Since I started this whole journey of making these changes in my life, I've come across 3 people that have become like part of a tribe for me. My friend Danielle, then me and Mindy met over TikTok randomly and started chasing thoughts. And now my buddy Jaret, who's been teaching me all about plant medicine, shamanism, and we're gonna be taking a trip in December to so I can experience that in person. And my dog's excited about this episode too. So dude, welcome, man.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me. Thank you for the lovely intro. I'm honored to be part of your soul squad, Keith. And this is my first time meeting Mindy, and it's very lovely to be here. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, I just want to say I'm a fan as well. Keith and I talked about your videos for a long time before I think he reached out to you, but it's really beautiful to see somebody using this new technology and this new way of being, right? Influencer, YouTube, social media, to bring more consciousness and spirituality to the world. And every time I see somebody doing that work, I just want to jump up and down. Like, that is freaking exciting.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And yeah, it's a crazy, really crazy like realm to try and
Yeah.
navigate. But
Yeah.
doing it. We're making it happen and to the best of my ability.
Yeah. Well, I know you want to start telling us a little bit like about plant medicine and stuff, and Keith has some questions for you, but I have some questions about that too, like the balance of how you go from sort of one world to another and keep presence. And so it's going to be a fun exploration today.
Yeah, hey, listen, I have no agenda. Whatever you guys want to get into for your listeners and for yourself, I'm open for it. Whatever you guys have to throw my way.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, it's cool too, because like we've been talking about with our guests, like trying to just have that open conversation and just letting everything flow and allow the conversation to take the direction it dictates. So this is gonna be cool, man. You're gonna be like the best person to do this with for the first time, man.
Amazing. Do you normally have guests on, or is it normally you guys?
So we
We
started just the two of us, and then we started having guests, and the feeling just didn't feel quite right to Keith and I, because what's exciting for us, and I'm sure you'll understand what I mean when I say this, is letting the space itself or consciousness or whatever this stuff is out here weave itself into the conversation and bring wisdom that neither one of us had or our guest, right? Like truth arising from people gathered in the presence of truth.
Yes, I love that. Opening the portal.
Yeah. And so we stopped having guests because we're like, we're not opening, like we opened the portal with each other, but we're not opening the portal with guests. Like we got to figure this out a little bit. So kind of massaging it. And so now we're going back into having guests with this new way of like, okay, we understand the portal more. How can we hold space for that portal and really have the kind of conversations that we want to?
Amazing. Amazing. I'm stoked to get into it.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about just your journey with plant medicine, your first trip, kind of how it started for you.
Well, I'll give you the short rundown. I'm from this little tiny farm town in Ohio, and I had no idea who I was. I felt invisible. I didn't resonate with anything or anyone. So I got into bodybuilding and started using steroids. And so at 19 years old, I was 240 pounds, sticking needles in my chest every day. Um, that's where I found myself. And by the grace of God, when I was 20, my friend introduced me to LSD. And long story short, after years of dedicating myself to bodybuilding, my only focus, 6 meals a day, training 4 hours a day, spending every dime I earned on steroids, took a small dose of LSD, hung out at Ohio State campus in Columbus, and I swear I woke up the next day. Not only did I never touch steroids again, but I never thought about it, and I also never went back to the gym. Like I literally just did a complete 180 in my life. And I became a real estate agent and started eating a lot of mushrooms. And, then I discovered Wim Hof and learned how to meditate and then I learned about grounding and, and then the story goes on. But that was really my big moment was I was a bodybuilder and I had a short bleach blonde hair and a big neck and everything. And I had a nose ring and took LSD for the first time, and it was just like, oh fuck. Like
That's
small dose.
crazy, dude.
Yeah, pretty small dose too, but it changed my entire life. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's super cool. Yeah, I love experiences like that when life itself, sort of goes, okay, we're going this way,
yeah,
left turn.
yeah. Thank God. Really. Thank
Ah,
God. And thank God for LSD, like these days. I'm working with and what I would consider much more uh alive, potent, powerful plant spirits like wachuma, ayahuasca, the mushrooms, right? LSD is a great tool, but it lacks spirit, right?
Mm.
Because it lacks that like there's not necessarily like an entity behind it. It's like this, it's kind of a blank canvas, um, which it definitely has its place. And I love LSD. Some of the best days of my life were on like one or two tabs of LSD. Like, you can have the best day of your life, right? But with the work I'm doing now, I can't imagine taking it anytime soon. But I don't advocate against it. I think it's a phenomenal tool.
so where
Do you
you're
think
at,
there's that? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mindy.
I was just thinking, where you're at right now, what do you currently think sort of your mission or purpose or job? Like, what are you leaning into in this moment where your path is?
Well, I don't know how long you guys have been following me, but this year I have produced significantly less content. Like the amount of content I've put out on Instagram this year is like what I was putting out monthly last
Yeah.
year. And during that time, so I've been, just really going within, doing a lot of personal stuff. And really where it's led me is to the point where I've been, all right, to answer your question, the retreats,
Yeah.
bringing people to like enough talking about it,
Yep.
enough talking about, because when we talk about this stuff, we're just dancing around the truth. Like you can never actually, like we're lying. I'm lying. But like just by talking about this stuff in general, you will never actually hit it. You'll never actually hit it. It's something that must be experienced. So and I'm coming back into, podcasting and all of that, but really this year for me has been a lot of inner work, a lot of silence, a lot of cleaning my own heart, and a lot of working with great teachers and very powerful medicines to get me to the point where I'm able to be useful in these ceremonies and not just sitting over there watching the shaman do his thing, to where I'm actually able to be useful and to help in the ceremony and play music and do the prayers and, help facilitate people through their process, right? Like I've been wanting to do this for years, but I wouldn't have been ready. Like some of the stuff that, I mean, and we can get into it, like I've been a part of like actual exorcisms, full-blown exorcisms where people's neck and head are literally coming up off the floor and we're releasing spirits, and it's very intense, right? And these experiences, are necessary for me if I'm going to be doing this work, you know. So this year has been a huge learning year for me. You know, for the last few years, I felt like I had a lot to say. And then this year, I've just been like, God, I have nothing to say. I am just observing and learning and absorbing the teachings from the medicine, from my teachers, etc. So where my heart and energy is in these retreats. I just moved into this house in Ohio near my family, which is lovely. I'm looking out at Lake Erie. It's wonderful. And between here and Mexico, that is all I'm doing for the foreseeable next 6 months, 12 months, whatever. Um, that's all I'm focused on right now.
Yeah, that journey of going in, I think is like the most terrifying, courageous thing that I do in my life.
Yeah.
And I think when people hear someone say something like you just did, the whole picture isn't clear. Like, I imagine that this has been difficult work where you're really hitting your comfort zone and you're doing things that scare you and you're fearing what you're going to find in yourself. Like, can you speak a little bit more to like the difficult parts of choosing to devote yourself to a season of personal growth?
So, so what I've found, and just to preface for your audience, like I'm not an expert in anything, not degreed in anything. This is all just my own experience. Just want to put that out there. But what I've found is the situations in our lives are very purposeful. They're very karmic, right? And we spend a lot of time running from them, avoiding them, making excuses for them, being a victim. And I think really what the internal process in is like, there's this like great way of looking at it. I love, like, the only way out is through. So that's really what it comes down to. And that's going to look different for every single person. But everybody listening has certain things in their life that are very triggering for them, that they don't like, whether it's a relationship with a family member, or, you know, your relationship with your children, or your career, or some soul ambition that's been calling you that you've been shunning away. You know, it's like leaning into the discomfort in a lot of ways, and then coming out on the other side liberated and changed and completed. But, you know, this is something I just put out a podcast with my friend Eben the other day, and something we were talking about was how in like our culture in America, we're very confused on like what awakening is. We have this idea that awakening is all about like highness and like light and love. And that's a part of it, but the shaman knows that that's only one part of it, right? Like the lower realms, the darkness, there's so much teachings here, and there's so much to be integrated there. Like you don't want to feed the darkness, but you must observe your darkness and like take note of what's going on in there. You know, because then you're not a whole person. You're like one half of the yin yang symbol.
Right.
You're just like one half. And there is no light without the darkness. So your light can't actually last. And it can't actually, because everybody who like be like in 2020, you know, like that was like a period of like highness, light, love. That's amazing. But a lot of people take that and then they think that they have like that is going to give them the energy and the power to go heal or help others heal. And you crumble, like you fold like a cheap chair, because the light isn't real unless the darkness has been integrated first. So,
Oh my God, dude. Yeah.
you know, so like there's no, you know, it's like that Carl Jung quote, like a tree's branches can only reach the heavens if its roots have first reached the depths of hell. It's that kind of idea. It's like your tree is gonna blow over in the first storm if those roots aren't fucking deep, you know? And then once you look at all, and it's not as scary as we like, fear is more so like fear of the unknown. But you know what, in my experience, like, you know, people watching people like have really strong medicine and purge and have exorcism and all, like they're relieved afterwards. Like, you know what I mean? It's not like they go through the darkness and they come out on the other side like in misery. You're relieved. It's relieving. There's liberation in your shit.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
that's what the process has been, you know, is just like leaning into all of the shit I was avoiding, all of the shit that was triggering. Like, our triggers are our teachers. Like,
Yeah.
if it triggers you, there's a reason. And so just leaning into a lot of that stuff and, you know, um
Yeah.
taking, yeah.
I think what you're doing is so beautiful. It's interesting. So I was a personal trainer at one point,
Okay.
people with their bodies. And then I started to realize without like the mental emotional component, like this isn't going anywhere. So
Yeah.
then I got certified as a coach and I worked with people as a coach. But now I'm kind of at the place where I'm like, even this isn't it. It's the experience, it's the depth, it's the spiritual stuff. So my own journey has sort of followed this journey of what you're talking about, sort of chasing what is it that I have to be in relationship with inside of myself, and how do I build that relationship so that I know how to be consciousness in human form on this planet, right? Like, and help other people do the same. And so I think it's so cool what you're doing and how you're preparing yourself first so that you can be somebody's guide, right? You're like, okay, we're going to go down the dark tunnel. Like, I'm right here with you and
Right.
we'll both be here on the other side. And um, that's important work, especially right now. I think it's like where we are as humanity and how we're going to evolve next or not evolve. We will see.
I have hope, but we have a lot of cleaning to do of our own selves, which
Yeah.
is why I'm, you know, going. I mean, listen, like, there's much better ways to like make money. You know, I built this like social media management empire. I could just be doing that. But like the conviction in my heart to do these retreats monthly is just like so strong. And so that's what we're doing. I'm so stoked you're coming, Keith. It's gonna be fucking
Oh,
awesome,
dude.
dude.
So is that going to be your first one that you're going on, Keith, or have you done this
Yeah.
before?
Yeah, it's gonna be my first one. And honestly, like it was sort of I have like a similar feeling to this as when I joined the military. You know, like as I was flying down to Fort Benning, I was like, what the hell am I doing? It's like, so you guys were personal trainers. I took the opposite path, you know, like I was like part of the Burger King fan club, like when I was 19, dude, you know, so or 17. So I went in this little roly-poly dude and just like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And every once in a while, it'll cross my mind like I'm going to the Yucatan to work with this Mayan guy who's connected through time, you know, with shamanism, and then also a very educated dude. You know what I mean? And I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Like, this is not me, dude. That's why I was like, private bungalow. Yep, that's me. I
Yeah.
need that. Like, I gotta go run and hide every once in a while.
Yeah, hey, fair enough, dude. I mean, we're gonna be doing some deep work, but I mean, as you know and feel, you're in amazing hands. Arturo is a true wizard, and like I just love him. He's one of the most important human beings in my entire life. Like on my five most important people in my life, you know, he's one of them. And like I trust him with my life, I would leave my family, children with him. You know, it's that kind of vibe.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
bro.
I mean, that connection. Can you talk about that connection a little bit? Like how important that is, right? Because he comes from like a line of
So
Sure.
Arturo's not fully indigenous, but he has spent his entire life, born and raised in the Yucatan Peninsula, amongst like people who do not even speak English,
Mm.
who like only speak Mayan, like people who like are born in caves that don't even have a social security card or anything.
Damn.
Like, and but simultaneously, this is a guy who is a degreed engineer and botanist who speaks 5 different languages fluently. So Arturo is I mean, he's an actual, they call him El Mago, the magician. Like
Wow.
he is an actual wizard. You know, this guy speaks my ancestry's native tongue that I don't even speak, German. You know, he knows everything about my ancestry that I don't even know about. And this is a Mexican dude. You know, like he's I can't say enough about him. And if anybody here wants a taste of Arturo, he very graciously, he's a very private person, but he very graciously sat down with me for almost 3 hours on my podcast recently. So that's
Wow.
available if anybody wants to go
Yeah, we
listen
can
to.
put a link in the show notes because I think that's awesome.
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah, you can link my YouTube channel and you can go to the podcast section and you'll see it. It's recent. It was like less than 2 weeks ago, and yeah, I mean he gets into everything, the Mayan culture and medicine and just everything in between and history and very, very special individual. So if anybody's looking for a very great, safe place to come drink really potent medicine, this is the spot.
Yeah, and this isn't going to be like we're heading to a resort,
No,
overlooking the ocean. So after like the ceremony, I can go lay on the beach and work on my tan.
right.
Yeah, it's gonna be a
Yeah,
little bit different.
we've got it. We've made it so it's like just comfortable enough. Like these bungalows that you booked, like these bungalows have AC in them. I have never, one time in the Yucatan Peninsula have I had AC. So it's and they're not overly fancy, but we're gonna be, it's a level of comfort that's like good. It's not too much. It's gonna test you, and also you're not gonna feel just totally like fucking destroyed either, because they're very integrative retreats. That was something that Arturo really stressed to me. He's like, Jaret, we cannot have retreats for consumers. Like we need to
Yes, dude.
empower them. We need to empower them. Like, and so that's why we build, because Arturo not only does he make all his own medicine, all of his own furniture, he makes all of his own instruments from scratch with native materials from the land, like harps, drums, guitars, everything. So part of the retreats is we build these shamanic drums. We go in these caves that have like Mayan hand paintings and cenotes that are on private land. The public doesn't have access to these, let alone know about them. But Arturo has spent his entire life. I mean, this is a guy who he takes 2 weeks out of his life, every here and there, and just goes to all these little tiny Mayan villages and just goes and keeps his relationship with the Mayan elders and goes and shows his respects and brings them gifts and buys them beer at the, and, just keeping relationships with all these Mayan elders. Because when he's not shamaning, he's a tour guide, like a private tour guide. And that's how I met him, because he works with this massive YouTuber, Fearless and Far. I don't know if you guys have seen him, the bald dude who like hunts baboons in Africa and shit. Um, and so I had him on my podcast back in December at his house in Mexico. And he invited me out into the jungle, which is where I met Arturo. And like Arturo like works for like, he works with like news, TV channels and everything. Like he's really like the best tour guide in the peninsula easily, right? And so we just have access to, and not only access, but like the wisdom and knowledge. Like wherever we go, Keith, he's going to be pointing out the plants, the rock structures, what it's used for, how they use this, why that's there, just like that kind of vibe. It's really special.
Yeah.
We don't have to
Yeah.
talk about my retreats for too long, but I am excited about it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Dude, like even like all that, this is the reason why like I decided like I'm going. And it was weird too, because like, for me trying to like build my thing now, like, money is very tight, and me and Sandy were talking, we set like a price cap, and it came in just at that. So when I sat down with Sandy, I told her, and she's like, well, you have to, like, it's just, it's going to happen,
Well, that's amazing that your wife was so supportive in that way. That's amazing. And you know,
yeah.
like I made these retreats as inexpensive as humanly possible. Like
Oh my God. Yeah.
I mean, I see crazy shit, 3 days for $6,000, and you're just with some like dude, and it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
so we tried to like really, and Arturo is, Janet, we have to give so much to these people, so much more than they could ever imagine. We have to just give, give, give. We have to make it the best week of their life, like that's the kind of energy of our retreats. So if
Dude.
anybody's interested, I'll send you guys a link. You can link it here or go to my Instagram bio and there'll be more info there.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
definitely I want to make the like especially like the link for like the trips, because I think this is so important, for people that are in this position,
Hmm.
looking for something like that.
Yeah.
I'm curious if you have any plans. Like, I know you have a community and stuff, but as your retreats start getting more popular and you do more and more of them, is there like an aftercare element or an aftercare community that you're hoping to build as well?
Yes, Arturo, that was one of Arturo's uh how would you
Like,
call it? Um Rules
yeah,
as
I
well.
would think
It's like
so.
we have, and I agree. I mean, it's not like I was advocating
Yeah,
against that, but that's something that he also was like, we have to take care of people afterwards. So we're actually planning part 2 retreats for later in next year where we actually take people into the forest to like
cool.
survive, right? Like
Oh my God, dude.
yeah, yeah, which is going to be gnarly. But outside of that, yeah, I mean, we're going to be having like Telegram group chats and Zoom catch-ups and things like that. Like I'm already doing that. Like with my group that I recently took to Oaxaca to have mushroom ceremonies with Maria Sabina's grandson, Bernardino. I've already talked to all of those people, like privately too. I'm just here for like whatever. That's really my role in it, like these retreats, the essence of them is Arturo.
Yeah.
Like everything Arturo has been working on in silence for the last 2 decades is what is being showcased here. And I, as Arturo's disciple and as a patron of the medicine, my job is I'm really leaning into like my emotional people management communication skills, right? That's my job, is to like be here for the people that are coming to do this in whatever capacity they need. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of aftercare, Zoom calls, group chats, and literally like obviously you have to set boundaries, you have to that kind of thing, but pretty much unlimited access to me. Like if you need me, I'll be there for you. I can't promise I'll be there, jump on the phone with you right away, but like I'm there for anybody who comes to these retreats that needs me. I'm there for them.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
How has your whole journey impacted like your most personal relationships? I believe you have a wife, a daughter, your parents, right? The people closest to you.
Hmm.
How have they gone on this journey with you? Because it's a big journey you're taking, and that
Yeah.
means your people have to sort of come along in some form or see themselves reflected in something they do like or don't like, right?
Yep.
How has that been for you?
Well, I have the most amazing. We're not like technically married, but I call her my wife. But Mackenzie is like the most legendary woman ever. From the moment we met, we have been on this journey together. Like the literally the second or third day of us ever meeting, we took a huge dose of mushrooms together. And like and from the first day we met, we were waking up in the morning and doing Wim Hof breath work and getting in cold water. Like this has been the foundation of our relationship. We got together back in 2020, and that's literally been the foundation of our relationship. So she's been on the whole ride with me, like her and our daughter. I mean, they've been all over the world with me. My little 2-year-old was just down in Peru in Wachuma ceremonies, not drinking Wachuma, but sitting on the shaman's lap and playing her maraca. And so my family's just integrated into it, in that regard. And then like as far as like my parents and that kind of thing, I mean, they don't I wouldn't say they understand it, but they do respect it. They at first they did not understand or respect, but as it's grown and like as silly as it is, external accomplishments really help the older generation. Like it validates you in a way, like my friend Mike Corey, who, he's got this huge YouTube channel, right? But I'm sure him winning the Emmy and beating Zac Efron and Martha Stewart, even though that's meaningless and actually nobody gives a fuck, he gets hundreds of millions of views on YouTube every month and has made hundreds of thousands of dollars from YouTube, maybe millions, I don't know. I'm sure the Emmy for his like grandparents was like the pinnacle, right? Even though for him it's like whatever. And so for me, like when my YouTube channel blew up and all this stuff, like it changed the dynamic. And the fact that I'm, 26 with a family and I've never asked my parents for money one time.
Wow.
That's, I've been doing all this crazy shit and never called them like, hey, like I need help. Like, so they respect whatever I'm up to. I don't know. I don't really know in their mind what they think I'm up to, but I can feel that they do have respect for the work I do, even though they don't quite know all about it. And I'm sure it'll get deeper with them. Like I have visions of, my dad, having a mushroom ceremony. Like it's all in the works. I'll never force it,
Right.
but there's a lot of time. My parents are young. They're in their 40s, like there's a long road ahead.
Yeah, I think that's so beautiful the way you said, you don't have to understand somebody. In fact, a lot of times it's hard to understand somebody else, to love them and respect them and be happy for them.
Mhm.
I think a lot of people get confused about that. So I love the way that you said that. And I think with each generation, you hope that your kid is more evolved, right? Hopefully someday your daughter is going to be challenging you in ways that you can't understand her and you're being pushed past your comfort zone
Yep.
because that's how we're evolving as a species, is becoming more and more conscious each generation, right? So
Yeah.
that means your parents did a good job with you, that you're challenging them and their level of consciousness.
Definitely. And yeah, I was raised by amazing people, like are they into what I'm into? No, but their hearts, their values, them as people, like wonderful people. My parents, my grandparents, all of them, they're awesome.
Yeah, do you feel like since you have so massively changed your vibration, for lack of a better way to say it, that you're attracting different and that you've been able to build this life because you're resonating with like new energies that are more in alignment with your path?
Yeah, I mean, like, there was a time in my life just not that long ago, like 4 or 5 years ago, where I didn't have a single friend.
Mm.
Like, not one, like because that's just a necessary stage sometimes in one's evolution, and especially for me as a young guy at that time, 21, 22, like starting over, essentially feeling like I was being reborn and like still in my small town. I just didn't have any friends, right? And now I look around at my friend group and my connections, and I'm like amazed. I'm like so thankful, that yeah, I mean, to answer your question, yeah, I mean, but I think where people get hung up is, I see it all the time, is like people begin to awaken, but the grip of like old friendships, old relationships, worrying about what those people think about you, what they're going to say about you, it kills people, for lack of a better word. Like it really does. It keeps your soul in a box in a lot of ways. And that's why, for me, a huge part of my journey was just getting the hell out of Dodge and living in a fucking tent with like door dashing for a living. Like me and Mackenzie, like we literally did this. Like we broke our lease. We were living in Cleveland. All our only source of income was DoorDash and Instacart. We tried to get a van, tried to get a loan for a van, it just wasn't working. We were going to do van life, but we made a covenant commitment to each other that when this certain month rolled around, if we didn't have the van, we were getting in that Lexus with a tent and we were getting the fuck out of here. And that's what we did. And that was best decision I ever made.
Yeah, I think the universe rewards that kind of leaping
Yes,
into life.
100%.
Yeah, I've always seen for myself and for people that I've witnessed, it's always a positive when someone leaps like that and really takes on something of faith.
Yeah, and there's always challenges and
Of course.
like, this is like the hero's journey, quote unquote. And it's like there's plenty of adversaries and challenges and darkness along that path. But the the depth of your soul and your reason, like your why and your it all that energy just it'll carry you through anything. But we don't understand our power until we have to test it.
Yeah.
Like if we're just in our comfortable, same routine we've been in, going to our job and hanging out with the same people and staying in the same vibration and never having to like have your character tested, right? Like that's where you find it. That's where you find it within yourself. And so many people in our country have never embarked on a journey like that. Like even Keith, you as a very young man joining the military. I mean, that's something like that right there is a huge fucking journey into the abyss, into the unknown. But bro, we live in a world where like so many young men will literally just from the age of 8 years old till maybe death. Video games, porn, the same little vibration, this stuck vibrate, never going on a journey, staying in their same town. And it's not that you got to leave your town. I'm not saying that necessarily. I'm just saying like, and like as a man too, like as a male mammal, like you got to remember, like we've only been this for a little bit.
Yep.
Like whatever we are now, we've only been this for like the blink of an eye, like with lights and microphones and shit and like soap. This is like only like this is like the blink of an eye in terms of what we are. So you gotta honor your biology. That is like you don't and I don't think you should be like a slave to your biology, right? Or a victim to your biology. Like, I'm sure Keith can agree. Like if we just let our biology make decisions for us, we would probably just be like we'd probably have 100 children, or something like that with 100 different women, right? If we were like only, letting our biology, guide us. But I think it's important to honor your biology, right?
Yeah.
And like have an understanding of it. Like, oh, okay, like I am designed to be in a tribal situation. And if we were in a tribal situation, I would be uh, as a man, as a like a big, like able-bodied, strong man, like I would be a leader of the tribe, right? And I would be going to war and I would be organizing armies and like making medicine and like or whatever. Maybe I was the town shaman or whatever, right? But like there's all these different elements of being human that we've just kind of like thrown away where we're just and we've created like a very sterile situation that's death to the human spirit.
Yes.
Dude, there's this dude named Sebastian Younger. He's a journalist, and he wrote a book called War. And it became a documentary called Restrepo, which is to me, it's just so eye-opening to what these kids go through, in war. But he wrote, after that whole experience, he wrote another book later on called Tribes. And one of his theories is that you take a platoon, and you put them in a location where they are basically cut off from everybody. You know, food comes in at certain points and stuff, but you're with the same small group of dudes, and you're within arm's reach, you know, pretty much at all times. So his theory is that one of the issues with PTSD is we're living for a time, or these guys are living for a time as we did for the majority of human existence. And you're doing that for a long time where life is just about survival.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all the other bullshit of, you know, I gotta put gas in my car, or, you know, like I'm out here because my neighbor's doing work on their house, you know, like, and at first it's like annoying. All that stuff just disappears
Yeah.
because we're living back in those tribes,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then there's such a hard, it's almost like a memory from our DNA,
Yes.
and like a grief from our DNA of what we're missing.
Yeah.
You know, that
Then you come back
tribal.
to America, right? Where you're in your house and there's no tribe, no community, no brothers around, and you're here, you know, asked to, as a man, right? Now you got to take care of your family, and whatever your work is, you're working to take care of your family and your house and all this stuff, and you're just completely alone and broken in terms of that element that you need. And that's a really great point, Keith, and I'm sure for those guys who are actually in war, it is on a whole other level that I could never even imagine. But if you even zoom out and just look at us like as a species, how much that's affected us and fucked us up, you know, like Terrence McKenna worded it one time along the way of like, we have been thrust from the Gaian womb and thrown into the chaos of history. You know, like we've lost this family, tribal, connected kind of energy. You know, we have no connection to the land, to our food, to the table that our devices sitting on, right? Like, you know, just very like literally like 100 years ago, like you couldn't have something unless you made it or grew it, or you knew the person who made or grew it. And now with the Amazon and, you know, just ordering things and everything's quick and fast food. And I mean, listen, I mean, this is it's a very big problem that we are going to have to unpack and face. But I have a feeling that it's kind of like, you know, like the idea of like something will fall as quickly as it was built. You know what I mean? I feel
Yeah.
like this is an issue that will pop like a balloon and fall instantly once enough people like not only awaken to it, but then act on it. You know what I mean? And we have to be smart. We have to wait for the right time to act because the system is falling apart. Like the darkness, like it's over. But the darkness, which controls our external world, like our physical world, is completely controlled by evil and darkness. Like that's just it is what it is. It's true. But like the planet, the cosmos, right? You can't fuck with this energy. This is not controlled by the darkness. Only our tax and political and, you know, the big companies and this shit, right? But as quickly as it was built, which we're literally looking at like 100-year period, it will fall. I feel like it will crumble and we'll be right back to you know, that homeostasis of tribe and love and connectedness. Like we're certainly heading in that direction. Like Terrence McKenna would word it like we're in the birth canal right now of a new species of human being. And if you were to just walk in on a birth without any context to what's happening, it looks like death.
Yeah.
You'd think something is terribly wrong, you know? And if you're and to that same token, we have been stuck in the middle of a birth canal, which, think about it, like the walls are closing in, life as you knew it is no more. You're fucking coming into these lights and you're like screaming. Like, this is a baby. This is what a baby experiences, coming out of the womb and into the 3D world, right? And so we are collectively in that birth canal. And so all we have to do is not panic and not feed the darkness. Like, extract ourselves from the darkness, align ourselves with the light, with God, with nature, with the great spirits, whatever spirits you want to align yourself with. Jesus and San Pedro or Buddha or Ganesh and Krishna. I mean, whatever, the medicine, whatever, but you gotta align with something, with the light, with the good, because I feel like part of the process is you have to like decondition, deprogram a lot of the shit. But then that's a dangerous place to be in, because then you're like very open, you know? And so I think it's important to have, like I was just telling like a younger guy this the other day, like, pray to something, to someone. It doesn't have to be indoctrinative. It doesn't have to be. I know we were all hurt by Christianity, most of us, and our trust was broken with these types of things. But the spirit of Jesus, the spirit of all of these characters and these saints, it's real. It is real. I've felt it. I've seen it. It's real. The way it's packaged to us is manipulated and controlled and demented and designed to extract our soul from us, our life force, our love, our money, our humanity. It's very evil. And I know we're getting into deep water here, but this is
Love it, dude.
this is where we're at. This is where we're at. So, and that's why the medicine is so important, because it's one thing to like think about these things. It's another thing to really like experience it on the deepest level. Like, I've had experiences like with ayahuasca where I have seen and felt evil in a way that I could have never like capitulated in my mind, of like what evil was. But like seeing it and feeling it in like fully. And same with the light. Same with like to that same token, I was just in Woutla working with the mushroom shamans there, having like the most beautiful sacred connections with these spirits, and with the light and with love and with that Christ consciousness, like really feeling that like on a deep level. So that's why the medicine's so important, is because like we as human beings are so, I'm careful with my words, right? As we should be. But it is, I think it's a delusion of reality to call the human species anything other than sick and confused. And we're sick because we're being poisoned.
Yes.
We're being poisoned. So like a bit like something Arturo has really ingrained in my head is like, bro, you cannot feed the darkness in any capacity. And everybody's version of feeding the darkness is different. For some people, that might be politicking. For some people, that might be drinking alcohol. It might be masturbation. It might be anger. It might be whatever it is. Like, we all have different versions of like our version of feeding the darkness. And
Yeah.
so, that's like a big an important point to make. Like, you have to align with the light and then also not feed the darkness, because then you get confused. And you see a lot of this. I'm sure you guys see it like in this whole like quote unquote spiritual psychedelic community. Like, there's a lot of people very confused who have like one foot in and one foot out. And that's like a really like that's like a worse place to be. than like all in on darkness or light. Like it really, like it's like a worse place to be. It's confusing, it's painful, and you're open to these dark energies manipulating you, sucking you dry, these like vampiric energies, right? If you're not like all in on your devotion to truth and light and goodness.
Yeah, I found like through my whole journey that there are so many people out there that maybe even their intention is good, but it's still the same thing. It's still more of just sucking things from you, where it's I've been through this, so therefore this is the way. If you do it any other way, you're wrong. This is it. Just listen to me. It's like nobody can fix me. I'm the only one can. I can find advice, I can find guidance, I can find teachers, mentors, but I'm the one that has to do the work. Even just listening to all the advice, like you said, like you get 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Talking about the Christ consciousness, that's one of the things that Jesus talked about was being lukewarm. Like in the Bible, he said, I would rather spew you out of my mouth if you're just lukewarm, having 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Yeah.
And for me, it's so funny you keep talking about this darkness. The other day I was when we leave, we like treat our dog better than we treated our kids. Our kids are like, dude, dog has more toys than we have. So when we leave, we leave like Disney movies on for her because like so she can have like some some company. And I was putting on was it Monsters University or something? And I realized like we always talk about our monsters and our demons, and we can have those demons, and those demons can be something from like a Stephen King novel, but those same monsters can also be something from Monsters Inc., this cute, cuddly thing. Like, so one of my intentions, because I feel a block, I feel things in my head, but I don't feel them in my heart. What do we have? Like something like 39,000 brain cells within our heart, and I want to break through that block. And almost, and I don't know, maybe it's wrong to think of it this way, but almost like fall in love with the darkness, to see it for what it is. Like in physics, they talk about at the moment of creation, like the Big Bang, whatever you want to like name it as, there was a release of matter and antimatter, and if it was a 50-50 split, the universe wouldn't exist. It would cancel itself out. So there was just a little bit more matter than the antimatter, but the antimatter is just as important because without it, again, the universe wouldn't exist.
Yeah. And that's why you're coming in December, Keith.
All right. So I would see, even in I was like,
that block you're talking about, that disconnect. I mean, this medicine is going to blow that door open.
That was one of my big questions about that, because we talked about this when we did the call where you explained it to me, and you had mentioned like mushrooms help you. I want to say mushrooms like help you see, but it doesn't really kind of get you to that point.
Well, what I said was, and I am a devotee of the mushroom. Let's not get it confused. But, and this is a nuanced thing, there's exceptions, but the way I've been wording it is mushrooms make you not asleep.
Yes.
Ayahuasca awakens you. Like there are levels to awakening, right? Like it's one thing to like realize, okay, the pharmaceutical industry's fucked, the food system's fucked, like I'm not my body, right? Like these are all like you're not asleep, right? You're like seeing, but like this medicine, I can't even explain it. Like words do zero justice. Like it cleans you. Like it's like a like like Arturo tells me, he's like his teacher tells him like there is no revolution, there's no political change, there's nothing like that. Our humanity will heal when every single person simply cleans their own heart. simply cleans their own heart. That will remove all of the issues. It's the cleaning of the individual heart. And that is what this medicine specializes in, in a way that listen, I think you could go your whole life with just mushrooms and have a and get to a good place. But the fact that this medicine exists, and notice I'm saying this medicine, like ayahuasca is amazing medicine, but like this one, I, I can't remember if it was the podcast I did right before this, but did we? I don't know if we touched on like the difference, but this ayahuasca that you're coming to drink, Keith, is very special. Like very, very, very special. It it
Yeah,
it
we talked about it a little bit. There's only 4 people like in the world that use this particular recipe.
Yeah, listen, I mean, there's hundreds of different ways to cook ayahuasca. Like, just for your audience, quick rundown. The ayahuasca brew, it's made with a combination of plants. It's not just one plant. So pretty much everything in nature contains DMT, dimethyltryptamine. It's a neurotransmitter. It's in our own brain, our own body, and it's in like every plant. Some in higher concentrations than others, right? But if we were to just go pick the most DMT rich plant, like the chacruna leaf, for example, which is what they use in the Amazon, the chacruna leaf, super rich, it's like all DMT. If we were to grab a bunch of those and eat them, absolutely nothing would happen because we have an enzyme in our gut called a monoantioxidase inhibitor, which breaks down the DMT instantly and doesn't allow us to have the experience of it. But when it's combined with the ayahuasca vine, so ayahuasca is a vine, and its scientific name is Banisteriopsis caapi. And ayahuasca has a few different translations, my favorite of which being the little death. And so so some people call it the vine of souls, but I much prefer the little death. That's like what the deep, like Taita shamans, like that's what they know it as, the little death. But anyway, so normally, like in a brew of ayahuasca, you have like the chacruna leaf, the ayahuasca vine, and maybe the shaman puts in like one or two other plants, right? This brew here has like 14 different plants in it, and
Jeez.
it creates this crazy synergy. And these plants, so it has like your classic ayahuasca plants, the ayahuasca vine and everything, but it has a bunch of these plants that the Maya shamans used in ceremony and for healing purposes in it, blended in it. And so Arturo's teacher taught it to him. And so literally only a couple people in the whole planet like actually make this or know how to make it. And it's very special and it's very different. Like when I first drank it, I literally came there straight from Peru. Like I was in Peru drinking with this like master dude from the middle of the jungle, been doing this for 45 years. Got attacked and got his leg ripped off by an alligator, by a caiman when he was 12, and started drinking medicine and dieting from that day on. And this guy's like in his 60s, right? Master, right? But I gotta just be real. That ayahuasca and those experiences don't hold a candle to what goes down at Arturo's temple in the
Seriously. Wow.
bro, not even fucking close. Like 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 there's so many differences, but like for example, like the stuff in Peru was black sludge, right? And you drink it, and like yes, it's not that it's bad medicine, but like for example, like I would be sleeping before the ceremony even closed sometimes. Like
Mm.
3 hours in, I'm asleep. This stuff, you don't sleep until noon the next day. Like it literally awakens you in every way possible, like to where you're watching the sun come up, just getting flooded with wisdom and like realizations and like I mean, it is so special and so profound. And so that's why I'm at the point where I'm like, there's no words left, like people, please just come here and experience it so we can clean our hearts and we can like move on because there's so much pain and sickness amongst our people. And we are the powerhouse of the world, America. And we are the unexamined ego of the world. We're like the 11-year-old. We're like the richest person on the planet that's 11 years old and has like no humbleness at all. Like that's America. And we are seeping our poison, like the poisons in our own people as are receiving the poison, and then American poison is also being seeped all over the country. I mean, I've been to remote villages in Laos, remote mountains in Mexico, and the Americanization is everywhere,
Mm.
but in less concentration than others. And so we're very blessed, and I'm very grateful to Arturo and to Bernardino and to these different shamans I work with and to the communities and to their families for even allowing us to come to their sacred land in Mexico, and have these experiences. Mexico to me is like the most sacred area on our entire planet. And if Mexico falls, we are fucked. Like spiritually, they are holding it together spiritually for like our entire planet.
You know, it's so funny. Like I was just seeing, uh, there's like the travel advisories to Mexico, like that constant of all the violence there, you know, all that sort of stuff. But like it's kind of goes contradictory to what you're talking about though. Like, I mean, just that spiritual,
Yes.
holding it together spiritually.
Well, Keith, listen, bro, this is the thing is the darkness runs America. And so they plot they don't want us going to they want us to hate Mexico. Mexico to what I've realized, Mexico is the shadow of the US. Everything that we're scared to look at with our, like how we started this podcast, all of that work is represented in Mexico and in the people. All of the everything that we've pushed away within ourselves, love, family, community, respect for the land, respect for our religion or our spiritual beliefs, whatever it is.
A slower
All
pace of
of
life.
this, respect is the big one. We have zero. We don't respect ourselves. We don't respect our ancestry, our land. And so all of these values are alive, oh, and well in Mexico. And don't get me wrong, like we were just talking about this on the podcast with Arturo, year by year, it's getting worse with the Americanization. And by the way, let me just like I love America and everything that the foundations of this country was built on. American people are the sweetest, very smart people. Like very smart people. The problem is we're being poisoned
Yep.
and confused, right?
Yep.
But America's lovely people, but we've lost touch with our ancestry. This is a massive issue. Like like people in Asia that I've spent time with or Mexico, they know what 12 generations ago we're doing.
Yep.
We don't know what 2 generations ago we're doing. I asked my grandparents the other day, like, where are your grandparents from? I don't know, maybe Germany or something. Like, wow, like really? You don't know? This like really this like sticks out to me as like a major issue. Because if you don't know where you come from, you don't know where you're going, you don't know who you are, you don't know what your people stood for, what kind of, and it's not that you have to live in the past in your in the in like, in that, but it's like, you could come from like this long lineage of warriors or teachers or wizards, right? And like you're pursuing some other path because society's told you that that's what you need to do and you feel lost and confused, when in reality, if you could just study, because we all know history repeats itself, and if you could just study, okay, what were my grandfathers and their grandfathers, what were they doing, maybe I can lean into that and I can find a lot of purpose and a lot of success in these areas,
Yeah.
you
Dude,
know
my mother's, let's see, my grandmother married a guy named I think his name John Real. I
Okay.
think I met him once, but Real and Italian, they come from southern Italy. And my grandmother told me once that Real, I don't know if it's like Italian or something like with Sicily or something, but anyways, where they came from, the name means royalty.
Mm,
So back generations ago, I could have been from like a royal Italian family,
right.
and then today I see myself as worthless.
Oh,
Like what royalty have we ever seen that walks around like I suck? I'm worthless, but yeah, I mean the past gives us the foundation from which we can build our future on. And this was the thing that started me on this journey. Me and Mindy talked about it a lot, but this model for a rite of passage that these anthropologists came up with, and this one anthropologist, Victor Turner, said that when you start to see countries become more industrialized, you see them move away from rites of passage.
mm,
That a lot of these, other countries that we would say third world, the kids still go through these rite of passage models that they all have. And he said, the more you do that, he said, the more we're going to have a mental health crisis in this country.
and look,
Yeah.
and we what and from looking at history, we can understand that the sickness that we have as Americans, this parasite, this American parasite, this like dominator, conqueror, more, bigger, I'm the best, I'm never wrong. All of this was inherited from the Roman Empire.
Yeah, yeah.
They are really like the forefathers of this disease, the Roman Empire. And you see this, I don't know if you guys see it, but maybe it's in my age range. Guys are like unconsciously obsessed with the Roman Empire, thinking that it was like a good place to be. Like the Roman
Oh my
Empire
God.
is still on Earth
Yeah,
for
yeah.
99.999% of its population. Hell on Earth. Very similar to what we're dealing with here. And it's because the leaders were not rooted in any sort of spirituality. All they cared about was control, which is what, I mean, this is why they had to kill Jesus, because the guy was just managing too much consciousness. He was awakening too many people that not only was the only solution to kill him, but then to take all of his teachings and pollute them, manipulate them, and make an entire religion not out of his teachings, but out of his death. Because if you can do that, if you can because his shit was so powerful, they knew it was going to live on forever. And so they're like, okay, we got to keep this, we got to control this somehow. So think about it. And this is like a sensitive thing that maybe is better reserved for in-person conversations, but I mean, what I just said there, like you take you take this amazing phenomena, Jesus Christ, right? And everything he stood for, which the first words of the Bible, let there be light, right? Everything he stood for, that is not taught in Christianity or church. Very rarely do you even go to church and hear anything about the teachings. It's all about the death. And when you make it about the death, then you instill the lowest vibrations possible: shame, guilt, sorry, fear. Jesus died for you, so now you have to be guilty and you have to fear hell. And when you're in that vibration, you, you, you're so easy to manipulate and control. You're so easy to manipulate. And so that's what they did, right? And we're living in like the shadow of that, and that's why you see this mass influx of Americans fleeing to Central and South America and like seeking shamanism and seeking like real spiritual experiences because we're starving for it. You know, it's
Yeah.
been it's been ripped from us. It's been twisted like Jesus, this whole story, it's so sacred and like powerful and real, but the way it's been presented to us is like disgusting, evil, demonic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because I mean one of the things that Jesus said is I am the vine. Talking about like that DMT, the vine, with the ayahuasca in it. Like, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot to
Oh, like,
unpack with all of that, and maybe that, that's something I'll spend the rest of my life studying and
oh
diving,
yeah.
feeling into, and we could maybe do another podcast, you know, next year all about this or something. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming on today. It's such a good conversation. I could just go forever. I am interested in your retreats. We could probably have a whole nother podcast on the fears and blocks that I have between me and going, which could be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, I've been trying to peer pressure Mindy into coming, like, all the cool kids are doing it, but nothing's worked so far.
Yeah, and I mean, I am a big like backpacker, traveler, you sleep on dirt. So like none of that kind of stuff bothers me at all. But I'll just say what my biggest fear is and we can leave it. I am not ready to surrender to whatever I'm told to do. Like there's still a piece of me that likes my life and likes my business and and knowing that if I'm told something and it imprints on my soul, that is now what I go do. And there's a part of my ego or self that's not ready to surrender yet. And I don't know right now. Right now, I guess I'm just sitting with that, right? Like in my meditations, like, oh, okay, you're here, buddy. Like, but until we gain a better relationship, like we're 50-50 right now, right? Like him controlling my life or this other piece of me. And I need to be 51, he needs to be 49 for me to make a choice to actually pay the money and go. I don't know if that makes sense. Am I describing that correctly? Do you guys know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying, and I think we should have a private conversation.
Okay, we will. That'd be fun. I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. We can arrange that in our little group chat there on Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, I love this. Thank you guys so much. It's another great Friday morning conversation. I just love our Friday mornings.
Oh yeah, fucking best. I mean, we're the best. This is like the best podcast. Besides Soul of Jaret, subscribe to Soul of Jaret. We're like even with him.
Thank you, Keith. No, I think you guys have a great thing going on here. I think your guys is I got to really feel and experience your guys' energy and dynamic, and I think you got an awesome thing going on here. Just keep doing it, and I'm happy to come back on anytime.
I appreciate it, man.
Thanks very much. All right, guys, I'm going to turn off the recording. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you so much for joining us. We are so grateful for all of our listeners. Please support us in doing what we love. It's as simple as hitting that like or subscribe button. It would really mean a lot to us. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you next week.